113 times. McCassell's neighbor was a shut-in who claimed that he saw 5 men wearing black masks step into Keith's garage and murder him. That same neighbor was charged with McCassell's death. 3 months after that, another witness named Greg Collins was found dead in the middle of the woods, having been shot in the head. 3 months after that, another witness known as Booney Bearden went missing and has not been seen since. 3 months after that, Jeff Rhodes, another witness, also went missing. Before a short time thereafter, his body was found in a burning dumpster. And then, 3 months after that, Richard Winters, our 6th and final witness to do the whole unalive thing, was found in his home decapitated with his head missing. And this is the best part of all. Guess what medical examiner was set over the death of Richard Winters? The guy whose head is gone and the rest of his body is in his living room. That's right, Dr. Malik. That's right, Dr. Malik. Dr. Malik said that the cause of death was a stomach ulcer and that Winters' dog had consumed his entire head. Hey, so during the section you're about to listen to, I keep saying Richard Winters was the one who the doctor said his dog ate his head and all of that. I was incorrect. It's James Millen. Richard Winters was another witness who died in relation to the case. James Millen, to my knowledge, was not directly related with the case. It was just another weird call that the doctor made. So yeah, I got the names mixed up. I'm going to keep saying Richard Winters in that clip, when in actuality it's James Millen. My bad. Carry on. So I went on this whole hunt to try to figure out what kind of dog Winters had, because isn't the story so much funnier if it's like a Chihuahua? And I couldn't find anything conclusive. I think it was just some kind of like mixed breed dog of like medium size. Definitely not eat your whole head size. And despite the sever marking clearly having been done with some kind of bladed weapon, Malik maintained that this guy died of a stomach ulcer and then his dog ate his head. Well, a week later, Winters' head turned up in a garbage can. While very decomposed, the head was still all in one place. When questioned on this, Malik said, "Oh, I guess the dog threw it up." So in just over a year, all 6 witnesses who said they saw something that night have died from something anywhere from mysterious to laughable circumstance. And the crooked medical examiner even came back to make a weird ruling on the final death. Well, after the first 2 murders of Keith Coney and Keith McCassell, the case was shut down. This was especially odd to the family because if you'll remember, Dan Harmon, this hotshot prosecutor, comes up to Linda Ives and the rest of the family and says that he's going to do whatever it takes to make sure these kids see justice. And then 2 people die and he's like, well, I mean, not anything it takes. Furthermore, at the time the case was shut down, a grand jury had been convened to go over the evidence to see if there was anything substantial to hold the case. Suspiciously, it was during this time that the case was dropped and the grand jury was ordered to never reveal any evidence that was brought forward during that grand jury hearing ever, with several members on the grand jury saying that they don't feel that's right because the information they saw should really be out there. And this is the same information that Dan Harmon and the judge decided wouldn't make a good case. Also, not to mention, if your witnesses keep turning up dead, there's probably something there. Well, this didn't stop someone named Jean Duffy. Jean Duffy was head of the drug task force within Saline County. On the first day that she got the job, her higher-up came to her and said, whatever you do, never use the drug task force to investigate any public officials. Which, like, that's the worst thing you can say to someone who has a drug task force. Like, imagine if you were a health inspector at a restaurant, right? And you come into the restaurant and the manager's like, oh, hi, welcome to McDonald's. Whatever you do
not check the meat in the back of the freezer.
Like, oh, well, okay, since you asked. While Jean's investigations were not initially linked to the deaths of the boys on the tracks, several of her undercover informants began to say that the drug ring around Saline County was somehow connected to the deaths of those 2 boys. Well, this was around the same time that people who knew something about the case started coming up dead. So Jean decided to pursue her leads in secret and eventually found a witness. Now, according to Jean, throughout this entire investigation, she kept being discouraged by officials around her. When she would mention that the murder of the 2 boys may relate to drug rings that she's looking into, she was told not to worry about it and that it's all some crazy conspiracy theory. And while she was just getting a sort of gentle pushback for her normal investigations, whenever she found this one particular witness, they went ballistic. Within weeks, Dan Harmon, the prosecutor who's supposed to be trying to figure out who murdered these boys, began having smear campaigns ran in the local paper about how Jean Duffy is a terrible local official. And through his efforts, eventually got Jane Duffy ran out of Arkansas. We'll get to who that witness was in just a second, but hang on. So after Duffy gets ran out and the first few witnesses start to die, the case gets shut down like I said a moment ago. Well, this was unacceptable to the family, as you can imagine. And over 5 years later, in 1993, the case was eventually reopened thanks in no small part to the complaints of Linda Ives. A detective by the name of John Brown was assigned to the case. He said on the first day of this investigation, a superior put him in a patrol car and just started driving around town with him. And for an hour, continuously discouraged Brown from looking into the case at all. Think about it. He's been assigned by the department to have the case. And then a higher up in the department takes him out for an hour and says, whatever you do, do not look into the case. According to Brown, initially the car ride was just stuff like, oh, this case isn't going to go anywhere. It's just going to make you depressed. But by the end of it, he flat out told Brown to leave it alone. Well, Brown eventually found the same witness that Duffy had originally found 5 years earlier. And as soon as Brown found that witness, Dan Harmon, the prosecutor once again, comes out and begins threatening Brown and the police that he will ruin all of them if they continue chasing this thread. Also, whenever Brown took over the investigation, he found that files on top of files had completely gone missing. Like within the police's own records, evidence was just gone and entire pages were blacked out. So what was going on that had the officials of the entire county up in arms? And who was this witness that Dan Harmon was so afraid of? Well, it turns out this witness was a woman by the name of Charlene Wilson. At the time, Charlene Wilson was serving a sentence for a cocaine possession, which she claims to this day was planted on her, but Wilson does admit to a previous history of drug abuse. It's because of that drug abuse that she claims she was at the tracks on August the 23rd of 1987. According to her, and this was the story that prosecutor Dan Harmon didn't want to get out, she was part of a group which totaled 5 people. These 5 people were walking along the tracks that night looking for a drug pickup. While the specifics of her story change a little bit for reasons I'll discuss later, all versions of her story say that this